changes in laws and things that aren't necessarily substantive, but we needed to have a policy for it. And then we added some policies, and if you'd like, I'm happy to hit the highlights and go through if that works for you all. Or I'm also happy if you all had a chance to review, just to entertain any questions that you all may have. What you have before you is a red line version of the handbook. So I've taken what the current handbook is of the city, and I have done a red line. So first of all, let me apologize. When you do a function of that red line is that the formatting will be off, and there may be some typos and punctuation issues that are just a product of that module. So those will be cleaned up, assuming the council moves forward with accepting the handbook as presented, or I can make any changes before it's formally accepted. But what I'd like to do, I think it may be beneficial, is to invite the council to look through this with me at some highlighted portions that I'd like to make sure I bring out tonight. If you'd like to turn your attention to page 11, two issues that we have added on page 11 under the definitions are an introductory employee. We're defining that employees that start employment with the city have a 90-day introductory period. It's not a guarantee of employment during the introductory period during that 90 days, but it's an opportunity for the city and the employee to determine whether there is a good fit. But it does not change the employee at will policy of the city, but it's a useful tool for the city. The other, on page 11, the other policy that we've added is for rehired employees. And this policy defines a retired employee. It allows an employee who has worked for the city for as long as 12 consecutive months, has left the city in good standing, then comes back to the city, works another at least 12 consecutive months, and stays in good standing to get credit for the prior service with the city. And these are policies that I was asked to include. On page 13, and stop me along the way if you all have any questions. Page 13, I have included language to ensure that we have the necessary policy for the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. And that's a relatively new federal law that requires that we accommodate pregnant workers in the same manner in which we accommodate those with ADA. So that's the changes there. The next substantive changes on page 22, which is the drug and alcohol testing policy. What I've done there is I have added an opportunity for the city, should it so choose, to conduct random drug testing for those employees in safety-sensitive and security-sensitive positions. We're not required to do that, but it gives the city the option to do so. The city already complies with the Federal Drug Testing Act for those employees who have CDL licenses. So we've just expanded the scope of our non-CDL drug testing policy. You are welcome to take a look at that and let me know if there's any questions about that. And much of that is in accordance with the policy that the Municipal League has published as well. I've tweaked it for Cave Springs specifically, obviously. The next substantive changes may be found on page 29. The travel and reimbursement policy. This provides that the city will move to a per diem reimbursement for meal allowances for employees who travel. Employees can choose to be reimbursed for the actual cost of meals while they're traveling, not to exceed the per diem, assuming contingent upon them providing the requisite documentation for that, but they're not required to. The city will also reimburse based upon a per diem. The per diem rate is that is set by the U.S. General Services Administration, GSA.gov. And all of this travel, though, I think one thing to be mindful of when I talk about the travel reimbursement, that all of the travel must be pre-approved by department heads or supervisors, or department heads period before. So this all is contemplating approval, prior approval before the employee undertakes these expenses. I've also clarified the compensatory time for employees while they're traveling, and that can be found on page 31. That's another part of that policy. Again, just putting into policy what the language is in the Fair Labor Standards Act and the Arkansas Minimum Wage Act, which the city is in compliance with. Yes?
On page 30 about the per diem.
Yes.
It says the per diem rate for meals and incidental expenses shall be equal to the U.S. General Services Administration MNIE rates. What is that at this point?
I'd have to look at it because when you go onto that website, you actually put in the location. So it's specific for Arkansas. It's geographic. So if we have an employee who's traveling to New York or to LA or to Little Rock, they're all going to, the per diems are different.
Thank you.
And we don't do reimbursement for the incidentals. It's just reimbursements for the meal.
Right. Does it say in here that we don't do the incidental?
I'm happy to clarify. Let's see. On the first sentence, in the middle of that page where it begins with employees and officials who are traveling on prior approved city travel will be reimbursed on a per diem basis for meal allowances. I'm happy to include language that we won't reimburse for incidentals.
Well, my concern is because the next line says meals and incidentals.
Right, and that's a great point. The reason is because that's the language that's used on that website, so it might be better to clarify. Yeah, so I'm happy to clarify that. I'll make a note to do that.
If that's all right with everybody else.
And I understand we're not actually voting on this tonight, so I'll do a cleaned up version with tonight's proposals and circulate that again in the next packet. If we're ready to move on, I'm happy to wait, but if we're ready to move on to the next substance, okay. If we could move on to page 44. We've clarified there and revised, actually, not just clarified, that full-time civilian employees may accrue and carry over to the next calendar year unused vacation not to exceed 20 working hours, which is consistent with what we have been doing for our uniformed employees. The number is a bit different because what police and fire accrue at a different rate, but that's a new provision. And another significant provision is that years of service accrual rate, which is in that chart at the bottom of page 44.
It's 20 working days, not
Thank you. 20 for carried over. I misspoke. The policy says days, 20 working days. Thank you. Yes. The next changes, substantive changes, may be found on page 52. Carried over to 53. So what this policy does is it establishes on-call pay for those employees of ours who are consistently scheduled to be on call. That is policy 552, paragraph 552. And paragraph 553, or policy 553, also provides on-call pay, but those are in situations when the on-call is unscheduled. For example, if there's inclement weather, a city disruption, something that requires us to call in employees who would not otherwise be on call. And the on-call pay under the two policies cannot be stacked. The next policy I'd like to discuss is policy 5.7, also found on page 53. And I was requested to draft a paid paternal leave policy. And actually, that needs to be parent leave, paid parent leave, because it would need to be parent leave for parents, not specific to mothers or fathers. So what this does, a little bit of background, the city of Cave Springs is an FMLA employer. We are covered by FMLA. However, our employees who work for us are not covered under FMLA. That's a little confusing because all governmental entities are FMLA employers. But for an employee to be eligible for FMLA, they have to work for a city who has 50 or more employees. We do not have 50 or more employees. So we do not have FMLA leave. We have drafted a paid parent leave, which provides mothers and fathers with paid leave. This is not medical leave, so if we could separate this from paid medical leave for pregnancy or pregnancy-related issues. This is different. This is simply paid parent leave for birth or bonding of a child, foster child, or adopted child. 2 weeks paid for mother and father. The next policy I'd like to refer you to is on page 60, employee health benefits. The law, I've added some language in there that employees may be eligible to continue to participate in the city's health care plan upon retirement. That's up there. The law in Arkansas has been that employees who meet the eligibility for retirement and years of service with the city may be eligible to continue on the city's health care benefits until they then qualify for Medicare. There have been 2 new laws that were passed in this last legislative session. It went into effect in 2025, and that allows for, specifically for police and fire, for the same thing. It does allow cities, should they so choose, this is not in the policy, just providing this as information, cities, should they so choose, to pay a portion of a retired police or retired fires and continued insurance until they become Medicare eligible. And so that's why I've included that language, should the city ever decide to do that in the next budget session or whatever it may be.
So,
yes.
Again, it doesn't say, do we determine it as a council on the amount that the city will pay on the retiree's health plan?
It doesn't. The law actually states that.
So how much is it? 100% still?
So the law provides, the law for municipal employees, just the law that has been in place indicates that the city would not pay anything. The law that was passed, the new law specifically for police and fire, the city may elect to pay a portion, any portion, all or none, of a retiring, they have to be eligible under the terms of the statute, but they may be eligible for the city to pay a portion of just the employee-only health insurance. So they can continue to have their family. The city is only able, under the statute, only allowed to pay for just the employee portion of that. And I'm happy to provide that law to you if you all like to take a look at that. Did that answer your question?
I'm not sure.
Councilman? Okay. So yes, the city, should the city so choose, and the city could elect to pay the employee portion of a eligible and retiring police or fire person. Yes.
It's not required.
But it's not
It
required.
would be a decision by
According to this, they don't pay a portion.
We currently don't. It would be
The city pays
decision
100% of the premiums. So do we continue to pay 100%? That's what I'm getting.
Right. So we pay 100% for current.
Right.
And what the law has been is that we are not allowed to pay for continuing for retired under the old law for all. The city may elect to do that in the future. That's a budget decision though, so I did not include this in the policy. The way the policy is drafted, the city may elect to do that in the future.
That's in the new law?
Yes, that's in the new law. But again, it's limited to all employees can continue,
Sure.
but only the city may only pay for the police and fire portion of the employee premiums should the city so vote to do so.
Good, thank you.
Did that clarify that? Okay. The next is on page 73. This is a policy about use of cameras within the city and use of installed cameras and maintaining them in working order, and prohibition of personal cameras or surveillance equipment within the city. And the last change to discuss is on page 77, which is just a revision of the employee records release and language that I've added in light of a recent law that allows for release of certain records under Arkansas statute. And I think that concludes the substantive changes, or I should say the significant substantive changes. There's been other changes throughout, but mainly to tweak.
Any questions? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Next item is the planning report.
Good evening, everyone. Got too many pages.
Thanks, everybody.
Missed one.
Just one of those, it's in there.
Mine's stuck in there somewhere. Planning Commission met last week. We had a few items on the agenda. One was a Ford Meadows rezone. We actually have a representative to talk about that with y'all. This is the kind of that bottom part of Ford Lane. It's kind of been discussed, in here previously, but the applicant brought some different layouts and design changes to the Planning Commission, just kind of look at and discuss. They had a mix of lot sizes, different things they were looking at. They've kind of got a layout and zoning option that the Commission's comfortable with, and they'd like to get feedback from the City Council. And so they're going to be coming up here in a minute and just kind of discussing that with y'all. We got the rezoning for Summerlin Village. This is what I just handed you the paperwork for. This is the property on the corner of Ford and Rainbow that was rezoned under a PZD. They're making a few minor changes in there to allow for the 0 lot lines, as we kind of discussed in one of the previous meetings. We'll get into that here in a second. The applicant is here for that too, if there's any questions. But it was intended originally to allow for individual ownership. It just how they were going to execute that didn't get put into the actual zoning document to allow 0 lot lines on those residential units. So the Commission conditionally approved this with some additions to screening adjacent to the existing subdivision. And that was to be added before we went to the city council. And then we've got the site plan review that is also for the Summerlin Village. And it's that same property. We've been working on that for a while. So with that being said, we'll move into y'all's action item for this evening, unless y'all have some questions about, well, really the other thing that we have to have questions about is going to be brought before you. So rezoning for Summerlin Village, they resubmitted their zoning document to allow for the 0 lot lines. And y'all have the wrong staff report for that, it looks like, actually. That's for the Ford Meadows. Anyways, in what I gave you, you have the original.
They're both in there.
Are they both in there? Oh, I just pulled the wrong one out then.
I put them in the order to the
Oh,
list,
Okay,
so it's in the back.
okay. Anyway, y'all have the changes in front of you. They're highlighted, kind of bubbled in red. And it really just kind of starts on the first page. And you go down, you kind of look at the lot sizes, and they added another break for the individual lots. And this was kind of to allow for those 0 lot lines. You know, these areas in red, you know, that are bubbled for what's being changed. Let me see this one. Is it the right one? Yes. Yeah, so you can see the change there. So this is the old one on that page. And what they did was under the residential lots, they just added this space to allow for what their individual lots sizes would be when the 0 lots. Just go back to that page. So you can see the difference there. So they bubbled that, and then if you go to like the next page, they've added some verbiage for the residential. How do we word that? Residential buildings are being the color tone similar to near residential areas. And then under H, landscape and open space character, they added some verbiage that says landscape buffer will be provided with adjacent other single family zone areas. That was the one that the planning commission recommended to be added. Our subdivision code actually, you know, has some of that built into it, but it was just some clarification they wanted to add. So if y'all have any specific questions, something like welcome the applicant to come up, or y'all see anything that is off. But no major changes essentially from the document as a whole. I think the only thing that isn't shown, because I didn't print all the pages off, if you go through the whole book of the old one, and you get to where they're showing the actual units, they change the colors. Like if you go all the way to the back and get where they're showing the units, they actually change some of the colors. That's just a reference to like a different color palette. Show that color. They actually took those out and then kind of put in some more earth tone neutral colors. They don't have like that blue that they're showing there. We don't usually moderate, you know, building colors, especially residential, but this is something they were willing to do.
Well, let me ask you a question here, David, on this sheet
Yes, sir.
compared to this sheet.
Yes, sir.
Of course, this has commercial lot, which this does not.
It's on the next page.
Okay, but I'm
Yeah.
talking.
So that was where when we got into it and they submitted the site plan and we were looking at it, it's like, well, there's nothing in this document that actually allows for those zero lot lines. You know, so then as we got to looking through it, it's like, we really need to revise the PZD. So yes, the minimum lot size would be 2,000 square foot. That's not necessarily the size of the building or the individual residential unit, you know, obviously. You know, there's still going to be some yard and like driveway space in the front and the back of each one of these where those zero lot lines are.
This says the lot width is going from 85 to 18. That's gonna be pretty narrow.
The lot width minimum for those units is 18. Some of them will be bigger than that, especially on the ends, but like the ones like maybe in the center.
In the middle, they're gonna be connected.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So the minimum that they can be is 18. Some of them will still be bigger than that. And that was something that I've actually specifically talked with their engineer about, was making sure that whatever their lot width minimum is for those individual units, it still corresponded with the overall individual multifamily structure lot width, which was 85. It's like, well, if y'all put, you know, 5 of these,
I'm glad of one thing. They don't show any ginkgo trees.
any what?
Ginkgo.
Eco? Oh. No. Y'all,
People don't realize how large they can
okay. Well, and that was part of the, you know, PCD originally, as far as, you know, the allowed trees and planting and native and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. And they kind of went by what we had established already in our code on those. Y'all have anything else on this? Well, if y'all don't have anything else on this, I will introduce the other representative we have here tonight for the Ford Meadows project. I think the mayor said y'all should have a staff report in there for it. You know, this is a proposed rezoning. It affects like 6 parcels. You know, it's the very southeast kind of section of Ford, Brown, you know, kind of in there. Roughly 77 acres. And, you know, they're looking at putting some single-family home development on it. The original proposal was to rezone it to R3. I think there's, you know, been some pushback against that, you know, from the planning commission, everybody, and they've been through a couple of rounds of meetings with the planning commission, looking at different layouts, different options, and I want to say maybe like 9, isn't? Yes, yeah, like 9. And so we had one at this last meeting. I think everybody felt pretty good about it. They really just wanted to let the council look at it and kind of get it in front of your eyes and see if y'all had any items to discuss. So with that being said, I'll hand out what he's got.
Hunter Collins and Craft Control. I'm applying for Ford Meadows. I won't show you all my concepts, I won't bore you with that, but I do have 3 to show you kind of where we started and where we ended up. Little one here. Number 6, see in the bottom right hand corner, the concept number. This is number 3, this is what we started out with. Which was an R3 zoning. Number 6 is unmixed. Number 9 back and forth on road design and lot sizing layouts to create more of a transition. This is the one we can land on. So that, so as you can see, we started out with like 241 lots, went down to 172, and then kind of finalized with a layout with 168. Keep in mind, 7 of these lots are going to be unbuildable. The intent is to use lot 1 up there in the northeast as an amenities area, keeping the existing pond there and reshaping it, but giving some sort of amenities such as like pickleball courts, tennis courts, something that the development could use. We have parking that's provided there. Some of the concerns were to have future connectivity to Burdine, which is just kind of off to the northeast of this viewport here, but there's no right of way in that area, so there would be no way to really connect. So what our thought was to keep that area green, use it as a trail and amenity area, and then dedicate some right of way there in the future so that if you do need to connect, you could. The southeastern lot is going to be a detention lot and amenities, trails, things like that. The northwesternmost lot is our interceptor lot, and the lot next to our giant pond down there is going to be our lift station. We also have lot 152, which is in the southern central kind of area. That's going to be another wet pond, which will also be an amenities area. So our thought is to bring this to you to kind of show our progression and how we've worked with planning from a denser R3 to kind of a mixed development with R3 to middle-sized lots to R2-sized lots.
Those lots on the west end are really, most of them are really small, aren't they?
Those would be like the R2 or R3 size lots. Another thing to keep in mind is
Roughly a quarter acre. That's there's a little over acre size lot.
What?
Quarter acre. I guess I don't think there's anything in there that's going to be under the quarter acre size. Meet the requirements for like an R3 size lot.
I think 9,000 square feet is the minimum. 9,600, something like that.
Yeah, it's like 125.
So they're still pretty good sized lots. It's just this is zoomed out. This is 78 acres, so it's a pretty large site. So our density overall is roughly 2 per acre, if you look at it, for buildable homes.
Quarter acres, 4 to an acre.
Right, but we dedicated quite a bit of amenities areas, ponds, and lift station lots. If you look at actual buildable lots, homes on property, it's roughly 2 per acre. Because you also have to take out for all the roads as well.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Okay. Thank you.
Let me say that as an individual, I don't like R3, but I have to take myself out of that situation.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Understand.
Y'all are good? That's all I have.
Yeah.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is another item where we'll be bringing a resolution to make a payment on the ambulance service for the third quarter of last year. A payment was missed, and we need to catch that up.
When was it missed?
Third quarter of last year, we pay quarterly payments to Pafford.
Late payment.
Yeah, it's not got late fees, it's just a late payment, but, next item is the fire department, Scott packs, air packs.
Water and sewer rated fees.
Oh, okay, yes, I checked ahead, I'm sorry. And those, we gave you the information in the packets last meeting, and nothing has changed from that. But, the hearing notice has gone out for the state law requires that for sewer rate changes, you have to do a public notice. That public notice has gone out, that we will start the next meeting with a public hearing. And once that hearing's over with, those two items will be on the agenda for approval. Based on the two acts and the studies that were provided.
I'm glad Pafford doesn't charge a late fee.
Yeah, I am too. And we're current other than that one, but that occurred last year. Next item, any questions on the rates? Next item is fire department, air packs. And we've got a couple of guys here that can answer any questions for you that may have.
Hi, Chief.
So we replaced one a couple of years ago, we didn't replace any last year. So we're trying to, our packs are getting up to age of 20 years plus. And so we're trying to switch to get forward every year. So.
And they were budgeted for. This is not another budget amendment.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next item is a resolution to close out the ANRC account. When we were doing our sewer project in NACA, they required that we open an account and that we submit documents for payments for engineering, for the construction or contractors, and anything else that came up that we needed to pay. Had to go, a request had to be submitted, and they paid that account, and we were to disperse from that account. That's the sole purpose of it. Now that the last payments have been made, it's time to close it out. And since it was created by resolution, it has to be dissolved by resolution. So, any questions? Next item is Water and Sewer Committee appointment. We had a guy on the Water and Sewer Committee for the last couple of years that was also on the council.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's coming.
Okay.
The Water and Sewer Committee is set up to be 2 members from the council, 2 from the general public, and 2 from Public Works. And with MC's resignation from the council, he's no longer qualified to be on as the council member. And I've talked to Jeremy, and he has accepted that that's going to be my appointment, and will need y'all's approval. Any questions? Next item is what you were just holding up. It is the impact fee study, and this work order number 16 We'll engage our engineers to be able to start the process for doing an impact fee study for the police, fire, and transportation. And the transportation piece is primarily streets. Any questions there?
What's its impact? I
Uh,
mean, how are we gonna, need a little bit more than just saying this is what we're gonna do.
This isn't doing it, this is doing the study to determine our growth rate, the actual, it will determine the fees that are appropriate for our city based on our growth rate and our needs that come out of that growth. And it will, it's like we did for the water and sewer impact fees before. This doesn't enact them. This simply gives us the information to determine what we want to do as a council.
So we're gonna start charging for police and fire protection?
No, we would charge impact fees on the houses being built like we do for water and sewer. We would do the same for the impact that it creates on our streets, for our police, and for our fire. It can only be used, it can't be used for personnel. It can only be used for equipment. And like if they determine that we've grown enough in the northern end that we need a new fire station at some point, it can be saved for that. Or had it been in place already, it could be used for the ladder truck, since that comes with certain requirements that come with growth. It would be used for things like that. The police as well. It may be that we have to add personnel. It would be able to be used for some of the equipment, or if we look at doing a standalone police station at some point in the future, or a substation, it could be used for that. It's used for resulting impacts of the growth. And it may be that when this is all put together, we determine that we want to do one or the other and not all three. It's just dependent on the circumstance and what's determined by the study.
Southerly Green?
We bring in, 3,300, I think it is, on every lot sold in water and sewer impacts. So if this is a way to have people that are developing and growing your and profiting from the impact, contributing to the impact.
Who conducts the impact study?
Our engineers would.
Yeah.
Well,
And on that second page, you can kind of see the breakdown. Basically, we're going to work with your guys' different departments, value your guys' assets, what's expected and needed based on growth. You can see a breakdown of some of those items that we're going to be doing on that second page in the tax descriptions. Yeah, if any other questions, let us know.
What's a qualifying asset?
Like the mayor said, vehicles, any kind of equipment, not staff, but everything else. Yeah.
now the streets, it won't, I found out talking a little bit to Daniel about it. Even though we've got more traffic on them and there may be wear and tear, it won't repair potholes or do overlays. But in situations like Ford Lane, where there's 2 or 3 developers building and expanding the street and there's gaps in between, it would allow us to fill those gaps and make it a better, more uniform street for everyone to be able to travel more safely. And it may be that we determine at an intersection at down from there that we need a turn lane or something like that, that would be potentially an impact of the growth. And that's something we might be able to do on our own. So those are the things that it would look at, is making things more uniform, being able to contribute on our own towards expansion in the gaps where the development would otherwise have us weaving in and out of. Any other questions?
Guess I'm the only one asking questions tonight.
All right. And the last item I have on the agenda is a trailer ordinance, and Justin's working on it. With some of the development and some of the things that I've seen in a few of the subdivisions, we've been getting complaints of people bringing in trailers, parking them in front of a house that's being built, and until the house has doors and windows on it, you can't lock your tools away, so they put them in the trailer, but it stays out there in the road where people are having to work their way around it. And what this would do is, just like our ordinance on our cars where you can't have a non-working car, if the trailer's not hooked to a vehicle, it's not working. And it would ultimately say, if you want to leave it there more than the 2 or 3 days to set up for the project, then it needs to be off the road and up in the lot. If you're going to be, but we have been finding that RVs are parked in the streets and have been for a number of days, just set up and parked in the streets, and other trailers. So this would kind of allow police to have the ability to go out there and open up the roadways and keep them open for traffic as is meant to be.
So, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here.
Okay.
The ordinance is gonna say it's gotta be hooked up to a vehicle. What's gonna prevent them all coming to another vehicle and leaving it hooked up to the truck?
And that's something that I've already talked to Justin about as well, and there will be wording in there that it can't be left so many consecutive days as well. It has to be, if it's a box trailer there to secure the tools and stuff, they've got to back it up in the yard and keep it out of the street. If it's someone parked with a trailer to mow or something like that, maybe they have their own mowing service and they park out in front routinely, it's going to have verbiage in there as far as where parking of trailers are permitted, where they're not. It's going to have where it can't go on a consistent basis. The streets are there to be driven on and for safe travels, and that obstacle in some cases is creating unsafe conditions.
What determines when a subdivision turns their streets over to the city?
The final plat,
So,
when they can
so
finish,
it's up to the planning commission.
it's not up to the planning commission.
Well, we
It's,
don't want
no, the planning, most streets, on the final plat, they're supposed to put all of the things that are turned over to the city or dedicated to the city. The street lights, the sidewalks, and the streets are noted on there. And those in part of the final plat, all of the small notes and blocks up there, that's one of the things that's there. When the final plat is approved by the planning commission and signed off on by them and by me, only then is it taken in to the city. We look at certain minimum widths and that it meets the standards that's required by the city's statute or ordinances. And there are certain guidelines. I don't accept streetlights where they purchase decorative ones, and they're not under service agreement with the electric company. Those go to the POA, those are not accepted by the city. If they're under service agreement with the electric company, where they come out and replace bulbs, and they, you call the number on the post, and they come out and repair it, those are accepted by the city. And that's been policy for years, and we follow that policy.
So do we have a impact fee for maintaining those roads and those subdivisions, once they turn them over to us?
That's what this is. We have no impact fee now. The impact fee
It's a
is,
shorter ordinance, it's not anything about the roads.
it's, the transportation portion is the roads on the impact fee.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Sure. Any other questions? Any other comments?
Yes.
Okay.
When was the last time we had a general fund, financial statement?
Last, I think it was May.
Last May,
Yeah.
so it's been a year.
Yeah.
We had it in August, we didn't approve it on that last approved financial statement.
Yeah, the last one that was accurate was February of last year.
So how long is it gonna be before we start getting them again?
We're close, but it's probably gonna be about July.
July. Well, I'm not voting on any financial matters, I'm telling you now, until we get to that. I'm not-
It will be June or July. It
The
will not-
financial statements for any of that. I'm not going to.
That's
So
fine.
we can't operate that way.
Anything else? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Got a motion, do I hear a second? A second. Got a motion by Mark, a second by Chris, and we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.